Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Mike Cowper. Thanks for being on the show, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Whitney. I'm very excited to be here.
Mike's a real estate investor that quickly grew from landlording to running a wholesale business with his partner. He bought his first property in November of 2014 and has since done hundreds of transactions and owns 47 rental units. And Mike, in a minute, obviously, I want you to tell the listeners a little more about yourself. But, I know as a wholesaler, I run into, I'm not a wholesaler, but the different wholesalers that I meet like yourself, you're an expert in obviously finding deals. Off-market deals, but then you're also an expert in talking to sellers and negotiations and those types of things where, if we're buying large commercial properties, at best, you find guys that are doing 8 and 10 deals a year. Maybe there's some that are doing more than that, but most aren't, and you're doing that many, I don't know, in a very short amount of time probably. But anyway, so I look forward to just us kind of diving into those, talking with sellers and negotiating and just how you uncover their motivation and things like that. But give the listeners a little more about your background.
Yeah, well, thank you again for having me on. And really, I'm mostly an entrepreneur. I did start investing in single-family residences in November of 2014. I noticed that it was harder and harder to find opportunities utilizing traditional systems like the MLS. So I started networking. That's how I met my partner for return on investments, which, like you had said, is our wholesaling operation. And really, we designed that business to be able to put ourselves and have a lot of leads in front of us for opportunities to expand our rental portfolio. Along that, we kept growing and noticed there was another need for people that are investors for bookkeeping, which is another business I've started. So I'm like a serial entrepreneur with a lot of different businesses that are kind of intertwined and leverage each other in a way that, has a good synergy about it. So like you had said, our wholesale business is really where my strengths lie. I have a history in sales. Before I got into real estate investing, I was a salesperson for copy machines, tax and accounting, and pharmaceutical sales. So I have a pretty deep understanding of how to get people to open up and express what they're thinking about so we can try and create and tailor win-win solutions for everybody.
No, I like that a lot. Because if the seller feels like they're losing, they don't want to sell, right? So, let's get started a little bit or guide us along through this, like, knowing how to talk to a seller and, start at the beginning and let's go through some things we should know before we get to this conversation.
So the big questions I always like to ask, and it's kind of funny, people are scared to ask them, is just why? Hey, you've reached out, so we've typically gone after them in some way, right? In our business, we use a lot of direct mail, postcards, letters. We do some online advertising, Facebook, things like that to try and generate a certain amount of interest. But the people that call us and talk to us, I like to say, hey, what's going on? Tell me why you're even thinking about selling. Because, we are investors. We've got to buy it at a certain price. And I just want to make sure that this is going to be a good solution for both of us, right? If it's not a win-win, it doesn't make sense for either of us to move forward. And I'm not super interested in wasting your time or my own. So I really try to open it up right from the beginning and asking them why. Because, if we don't understand their why behind it, then we can't really solve their problem. If it's just they want the most money on the planet possible, we're probably not the best fit for them. And I'm imagining a lot of the people that are listening are probably not the best fit for them, because if we just want to throw money and create an income stream that way, you can go buy CDs for 0.000 whatever percent they're offering these days at the bank.
Nice. So anything, before that conversation that you want to have every time before you have that conversation, any kind of details or a knowledge, whether it's about the property or the seller, that maybe like it's fair, just key for you having before you actually meet them or have that conversation.
So my first conversation, I like to be pretty dark, to be completely honest. And I'm glad you actually dug in a little bit deeper on that. So when I'm talking about a sales process for us, it's usually a multi-step approach. Very rarely are any of us going to get a one-call close. So when they call in, that first call with them, I want to understand them and their situation. I want them to tell me everything. I'm not going to give them much information about us at all. I'm going to try and redirect their conversation back to their motivation on why they're thinking about selling it. So that first call, I'm going to ask them for the information I want. In single family, it's more specifics to how do I get the ARV, how many, bedrooms, bathrooms. In apartments, it's probably how many units, what's the net operating income, what are we looking at in terms of expenses? Do you have a balloon coming up, right? The typical things that you're going to want to know to make your evaluation, I want to get it right from then. And that's what I'm using on that first call. I'm understanding what they're going through. I'm trying to get information, and I try to pepper it in a little bit each different way. So when I first ask them why, they start telling me. Then if I keep asking and digging super aggressively, it's going to start to turn into an interrogation. We don't want them to feel on their heels. So that's when I'll start asking some of the stuff I could probably look on public record, but it's an easy answer for them. And it starts to be able to divert their attention back to, okay, this person's interested, and I'm trying to get information to them. So, how many units are it? And after asking the question, okay, hey, I was just thinking about it. You said this. Tell me more about that. Why is that a problem for you? And is it a timing issue? And is it a money issue? Really trying to dig in deep, and then, taking that active listening style, right? Understanding what they're saying, paying attention to what they're telling us, and then using that to ask why again. A lot of us, when we're listening or selling, like, a lot of us don't feel that we're salespeople, and every one of us is, whether we like it or not. The more we can get to the why behind everything that the person's telling us, the better we're going to be able to solve that problem, right? We're not the cheesy salesperson that's super pushy and take it or leave it, Dwight Schrute style from The Office. But what we're going to try and do is understand what it is that they are trying to accomplish, and then tailor a solution specifically for that. And what I've noticed is a lot of people, they get in their own head, they're trying to form that next question while they're still listening to the other person. So you're not actually engaging with them. They can probably tell that you're not connecting with what they're trying to tell you. And then you might ask just what you want to know rather than just follow the path and take your time of what they're trying to tell us.
Sounds like podcasting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Uncovering a question, then letting them go, and then kind of trying to, it really is that. I mean, it's a long form interview trying to understand what is going on with this person and what are the options we can create for them that makes it a win-win.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Now I can definitely relate, just through through podcasting and doing many interviews. But maybe you could either help us with a few key questions that you like to ask, and then help us to be a better salesman.
So I don't do a ton of this in the large multifamily space, but I think a lot of the questions you can always ask are pretty simple. Why are you thinking about selling? How much are you hoping to get? How quickly are you looking to sell? Why not list it? I love asking that question for like a single family, and I'm assuming it's the same. Why not work with a broker if you're not working with a broker, if you're getting it direct to a seller? Because that's going to tell you all the reasons they don't think that person can solve their problem for them. So I like to ask those 4 major questions because it gives me a framework of how they're trying to look. Like, here's kind of the number they're looking for, how much they're hoping to get. I will usually follow up with, okay, so if we can, in the single family space, if we can make a cash offer and move quickly, right? It's not always the same when you're buying, 1,000 units, but understanding how much they're willing to maybe take an initial discount if we can solve all their problems quickly. What their timeline looks like, because if someone has a foreclosure or if they have an impending, balloon payment that needs to be done in 2 weeks, that's gonna be a different conversation than someone that has, a year or two, or they don't really have a time frame. And then being able to tie it back. So if you're not really in a rush and you're looking for the most money possible, why even bother selling it? It sounds like you're getting everything you need. You're making a bunch of money. I like to assume the positive and then make them tell me negative, right? So you're probably making a killing, right? You're a fat cat. You're making all this money with all this extra income. Why would you ever get rid of all this income? It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then, usually go super aggressive, positive. They'll kind of go, well, it's not all that great. Here's some other things that are the problems. And really you try to not be super direct or aggressive about it. You want to assume things and then let them correct you. And that way it's not like if you say, hey, you must be doing terrible or you wouldn't call me. Well, they're going to be defensive, right? So trying to assume the positive and over commit to what what you think, right, the perception is, that really helps them tell you, well, actually it's not this. And maybe this might be something I'm challenged with, or I'm just tired of fixing all these furnaces and all these windows just keep breaking. All these tenants keep turning over, not making their payments. So trying to understand that and then dig in deeper. When they give you whatever that original question is, that original answer is, right? My tenants never pay. Oh man, that's gotta be really frustrating. What is it about that? How does that make you feel, right? Tie it back to that feeling side and then go, okay, well now this makes you feel that way. If I can solve that problem for you and take this away from you, how would that feel after that? right? Build up that situation, that scenario for them after the problem's gone. And then they're going to be a lot more open to sharing with us, how can we get there? And they're also going to have that, okay, here's that sense of relief. Here's the reason I'm trying to sell. Here it's gone now. And now how can we work together to make that happen?
I like that a lot. I mean, helping them, you're really helping them speak about their problem really makes it even more real for them, doesn't it? And then you being able to provide a solution and them getting to just think about that solution and almost mentally live in that solution for a moment just to get a taste of it. So they want to sell to you, right?
That's exactly right. And really, if we're doing a good job selling, no one should feel like it's being sold to them. It should be a collaboration, right? We need to make money. We want to buy an investment. You want to sell. Here's the problem. How can we solve your problem in a way that works for us as well? Right. And it might mean you give up some of your equity. Maybe we work out on some creative terms where we can help with the financing, whatever it might be. And the better we understand our client, our seller, the better we can create that and tailor that solution, right? Because there's an infinite amount of ways you can structure deals.
Right.
Understanding what is a win for them and then tailoring it isn't a win for us is really the best way to get the best results, in my opinion.
Who is Vinney Chopra? Came to the U.S. from India with $7 in his pocket, and today he has created a portfolio of over $200 million in commercial real estate. He's a CEO of 5 companies, acquiring and managing diverse multifamily portfolio of 3,500 units, and his team self-manage all the assets. Vinney has walked the walk with over 26 successful syndications during multiple economic cycles, including downturns over 12 years. He has built a very extensive educational academy to teach and mentor investors. Vinney, tell us about this Multifamily Syndication Academy.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you so much. I'm really proud to really talk to everybody about this extensive multifamily academy that teaches new and sophisticated investors how to use other people's money through syndications. That has been my world, to buy apartments from 50 units to 500 units, and how to select emerging markets, how to do deal analyzing, investor education, other people money, syndication blueprints, everything I have learned, I teach in this academy, and over 500 lectures, and also how to manage the assets also, and along with lots of great templates and PowerPoints, everything. And I personally also mastermind coach all my students every Wednesday. So to reach me, Whitney, all the students have to, or investors have to just text the word learn, LEARN, learn to 474747, or call my team at 925-766-3518.
Yeah. So, we had briefly talked about active listening. Is there a specific thing that you do or some way that you've really honed that skill to be a really good active listener?
So what I found to be very good about that is making direct eye contact, I like to have a smile on my face. I find me myself a happy person. And I think people open up when people are smiling. Right? If you're giving them the stern principles look, it's not going to be the most comforting. So I try to look at them. I lean forward slightly with my arms on my knees. So it's almost like a 45-ish degree angle forward, but with a smile on your face. So then that way they know you're listening. And also I believe, I'm not a psychologist, but I think there's some studies done that, the more you're in that pose, the more you're able to absorb, the less distracting things are. And then, I always have a notepad, just take down little notes, right? That way I can remember. You don't want to stare daggers in them. So, break your eye contact every, 15 to 30 seconds. But really, that's kind of what I found helps me the most. I'm leaning in, I'm engaged, I'm paying attention to just them. And I'm taking down the specific notes that I think are going to be relevant later while smiling and looking at them. And then just asking them, whatever answer they give me, taking that, restating it back to them. Now they know I've heard them, and then trying to create another next follow-up question to that. Well, you told me this. Okay, that's interesting. How does that make you feel? Or tell me more about that. Tell me more about that's a really easy one, because it lets you give you that surface level answer that everyone kind of has locked and loaded, and then peel that onion back. Oh, okay. So this is what you just said. This is how you kind of feel. Tell me more about that. How might it feel if? Right? That way you can start to get deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more people are talking to you, and the less you're talking, the more you're listening, the more they trust you. People get a lot more trust when think about a person you really like. If you meet somebody new and they just talk most of the time, they go, man, I really feel like I know you and you really get me. Because they're just talking the whole time. If you're just sitting there actively listening and taking it and letting them know that you're hearing them, people tend to like people that let them talk because people want to talk about themselves and their situations for the most part.
No, that's great advice. Great advice. Talk less, listen more. Right?
2 ears, 1 mouth.
That's right. So, let's move into like the negotiation side a little bit, or maybe, do you have an example or a couple examples you could give us and just really learning, how to negotiate, but also, when we need to like pivot the conversation or, maybe you can talk to that. But, get us started in maybe some, I don't know, thinking about negotiating a deal and maybe give us an example.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm negotiating, I don't really like to start negotiating until I have a commitment from them, right? Upfront contract that they are ready to make a decision. So I don't like to present any offers or any numbers until they're ready to tell me yes or no. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can't live with a maybe. If you tell me no, that's okay. I've heard it before. I'll hear it again. But I need to know if I make you this offer that you're ready to tell me yes, you're ready to tell me no right now. Is that something you're okay with? Is that something you can commit to? So I get that before I ever begin. At this point, this is where I've already done my due diligence for the most part. In the single family space, I can vet out a house pretty quickly. Where as a multi-unit, it's gonna be a little bit different. You might have to have some terms and outs in there, inspection periods, because you can't run through 1,000 apartments in in a day or a couple hours. So once I get into that phase, I go, okay, so you're ready to make a decision. Here's kind of what I'm going to talk about. You said A, B, C, and D are a problem. I'm going to solve those by doing A, B, C, and D. Now, based on that and based on the information I've already given, and I've already seen about it and I've done the research for, valuation of the property, I'm going to be able to offer X. And I let it hang for a second. Then I go, what are your thoughts on that? I usually, in my profession, is I try to make it as low of an offer as I possibly can without them having me throw me out the front door, but them wanting to. So I try to put that as an anchor price. And that way I can start somewhere and have a little bit of wiggle room to go up. But I ask them what their thoughts on that are. And then they're going to typically not be very happy with it for the most part, but sometimes they are. And what they're usually going to come back with is, I need more than that. And I go, okay, well, tell me why. Explain to me why it deserves more. If I'm going to do all these other things for you, and this is kind of where we need to be. It's still a business for us as well. I've got to make sure that we can keep it profitable on our end. Why do you need more? And how much more do you need? What's the best you think you could do? That's usually my follow-up question there. And the trick with both of those is when you say the number, don't make an answer, don't say another thing until they respond. And then you say, what do you think the best you can do is? Just let it hang there in silence. I've sat in people's living rooms and their basements and just stared at people for 5 or 6 minutes and then ultimately getting a contract for them. Because when you leave it out there, people like to fill dead space. It's a really great negotiation tactic. When you make your offers, don't start negotiating against yourself. When people are nervous or uncomfortable, they usually try to start talking and they usually try to fill the air. And usually that's the person that starts giving away too much information or starts giving away the concessions they didn't mean to. So use silence as a great negotiation tactic. And then ultimately, you go back and forth a little bit and then you find the right number. Or if it's just something you can't come to agreement on, you say, hey, I appreciate the time. Should something change, let me know. And I always use a ticking time bomb is, look, I go look at a lot of different opportunities. So I can't promise after I leave that this offer is going to stay the same. So if you call me back, I'll be more than happy to make an updated offer, but I can't promise this one any longer. So I always kind of leave with that. I try to keep it open door, but I also don't want to commit myself to a price that if they call me in 2 weeks and I've reallocated my capital somewhere else, then I can't really honor it. And I want them to have that impression they get a bad taste in their mouth. So I always make sure I let them know that when I leave, this offer is disappearing. It could be the same in the future, but I can't promise it.
So you don't put like a length of time, but it's like once you leave, that's it.
Yeah. And now in terms of, large multifamily space, that's probably not the exact right tactic for that because there's probably going to be potentially opportunities and other bidders. So, what I would do is say, look, here's the time and space in here. But at the same point, you have to figure out a way to make sure you have a takeaway and there is an expiration to it. Otherwise, people will just take their time. They'll shop it around. I try to make it as tight of a window as possible because every time you have an offer out there, that means you might not be able to make another offer or move forward on another opportunity. So I try to make it a fair offer. And, when I'm working in the single family space, I've already done the calls. I've talked to them up front. I've already asked for their commitment to me. I'll say yes or no. in a larger apartment unit space, you might be, no, I'm not ready to make the decision. Okay, when can you make a decision? So if I make this offer now and you can make a decision by that point in time, I'm okay with that, right? So you can tailor it to whatever you want. I just try to figure out what is a fair amount of time for them to consider it. That also is a little bit aggressive for them, because we want them thinking about it. We want them to make that decision, because a maybe kills us, right? That just ends up taking up a lot of time. And most of the time it doesn't end up in a win.
Oh, I like that. A maybe kills us. You need them to make a decision and be really be on board right away, right?
Exactly. So if they say no, then that gives us another opportunity. Okay, hey, I totally get it. Is money the only reason you said no? Okay. Well, what if I can't make the money work? Is there anything else we could do to make this work, right? It gives you another opportunity to uncover more opportunities and motivations that maybe they weren't comfortable saying at first, right? Sometimes getting that punch in the gut with the price offer lets them start telling you all the other things that they didn't want to tell you at first, or, thought you didn't know. Or it's funny, once the offers come out, that people start talking a lot more. They know what fair market value is all of a sudden. They've talked to 7 agents. They really start to get out there and chatty once you make an offer, I've found. And a lot of people do like to try and hold that to their vest. And I always say, look, I run it on numbers. Whatever I offer you is based strategically on numbers, not on me trying to get a low ball. It's right. It is what it's going to be. So it's not going to change. And I just want to make sure that you're not asking for $1 million and I'm going to offer you $1. So that's where I try to get them to share me their number up front, right? I don't want you to be super offended, and I don't want to waste my time. Granted, $1 million and $1 is a little bit different for the apartments, but like $1 billion and $1, right? We want to make sure we're in the same playing field and that we can come to some sort of an agreement. If you're asking for way over fair market value, that's not something I'm going to be able to do. And I'm offering way under fair market value, you're not going to be very happy either.
Yeah. So you just lay that out there, hoping that, do you always want them to give a figure before you do?
Yeah, I usually do. And the reason I want that is just because I want them to say something. I feel like psychologically it makes them kind of open up a little bit more.
Sure.
And I do try and say that. And if they won't tell me, what I'll usually say is, look, every person that's never told me what they're hoping to get for this, I've never bought their house. So how about this? You take a little bit of time. When you have an idea of what you think you want for it, give me a call back. I've got some other people that are a little bit more ready to sell their house. So I can't, I really can't prioritize you if you're not sure what you want to sell it for, because if you're not sure what you sell it for, how can you sell it to me? And I kind of like to put it back on their court. So, being that person that's able to push away somebody else sometimes make them want you more, right?
That's right.
So if you ignore somebody or you don't need it, right, that desperation feel, people can tell about it sometimes. And if they want to play the hardball way, right, they're typically going to be a difficult client anyway. And they're typically asking for way more than it's worth, or at least worth for an investor. So as an investor, I just don't want to spend my time there. And if they can tell me what that number is, awesome. If they don't, then call me back when you're ready. I'll touch base with you in a month or two from now and kind of see how things are going.
Wow. No, I like that. How do you, I guess, on a different subject or different note, how do you track all this? What type of, I ask a lot of people, like, what kind of CRM are you using, or what kind of, marketing are you doing? What do you use?
So we are using Podio. We have tried a few different skins from different people that have, have their services on it. My partner is actually working on building out a new one with just a consultant. So we own our own, so we don't have to do the monthly payment thing, and we can have more control when things are broken down. What I've noticed recently with some of the different services is that, they point to Podio as being the problem. Podio points to them as being the problem. So we just want to control the entire thing. It's too important to us to not have full control over it, or a reliable system. So we use that. Everything comes in. We manage our phone calls through CallRail, and that flows right into Podio. In terms of postcards, I'm not sure the company we use right now, but we send out anywhere between 80 and 100,000 of those a month, utilize Google AdWords as well as Facebook marketing. So we're really trying to hit a lot of different avenues in terms of the way we try to target these sellers, right? We want to get to them and give them a lot of different options to find us.
What's a way you've recently improved your business that we can apply to ours?
I would say having a very clean system and process for everything, and being in reviewing it regularly. Because what we've done in the past is created a process or created a system that worked for the time in the business we were then, and then never really go back to update it and check to make sure it was still the most effective. The reason you want to always have a system and process for everything is, one, it takes some of the brain power out of it. You can just do it over and over and over again. And then you should also be able to hand it off to other people so you can multiply yourself and your time. the goal, I would hope for everyone, is to, fire themselves from their current jobs and keep elevating and delegating. So pushing down the lower level tasks so we can do higher value tasks ourselves. And I think that's really where a good system and a good process comes into play. And what we've been doing recently has been revamping all of our processes. Transitioning over to the new Podio system helped us look into, okay, where were we being a little bit ineffective? Where was it a little bit cluttered? I'm guilty of making things complex and looking cool and, using technology that probably wasn't needed. So simplifying a lot of those processes, right? What is the absolute bare bones that you need to make this effective? And I think, at least I find that I get myself into trying to make it really cool, try and make it complex and have this big manual, or using all these cool, IFTTT and Zapier and whatnot to all integrate with each other, when really just you need to create a task and put notes in.
No, that's some good advice right there. You can definitely overcomplicate it and feel like you're making progress when really you're moving backwards.
Exactly. You're busy for busy's sake.
Yeah. And Mike, what's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
I really think the number one thing that's contributed to my success is the network I've built. I've been incredibly lucky to be a part of different mastermind groups and know some very successful people locally that have helped me out. Some of your previous guests have been, friends of mine, which I'm really excited about, but really having a network of people that are like-minded and being open and willing to share has been probably the most valuable thing. And then on top of it, cool podcasts like these, right? Just having all this content information out there to listen to when I'm driving around has been very huge, because now I can be aware of what's going on and learn while I'm on the go.
So is there a need in your business right now that you'd like to let the listeners know about?
I don't know that there's a need. I mean, if anyone's looking for single family homes, we do have probably daily opportunities in Metro Detroit. We don't do anything in the city and some of the tougher areas. And if you're interested in that, you can sign up on our buyers list at WeBuyROI.com. But we do, like I'd mentioned in the beginning, we do have a bookkeeping service for specifically investors. We've had accountants and bookkeepers in the past that didn't really understand our business, tried to reconcile once a month, and they could never figure out what was going on. So we actually hired a direct bookkeeper and then decided to partner with them and create our business called REI Books Online.com. So if anyone's interested in that, just reference me in this podcast, and I think we can get you like $100 off. I have to double check on that. But I'd like to offer that to everybody, just because, being an investor and working with someone that doesn't understand investments can be really tough for your business, your accountant, and making sure things are on point.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mike. And how do you like to give back?
Well, I've gotten a lot of help in the past. So a lot of people have, given me information, shared with me the best practices, given me advice. So I really try to do the same with people that are proactive about it. When I was starting off, I asked a lot of questions, I got a lot of answers, and I like to do the same for other people. What I found is that, a lot of people don't take people up on their advice or don't take it into action. And I think that's probably maybe the most frustrating part. So, if anyone wants to reach out to me, Mike.Cowper, COWPER at WeBuyROI.com. Feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help in any way that I can, because really that is, I think, one, it helps me remember to learn. It helps me solidify some of the practices that I have myself. But like I said, I got a lot of help, and I like to keep giving help forward, because, I think that's the way we all get better, right? A rising tide lifts all ships.
I like that a lot. Mike, I really appreciate you being on the show today. You've provided a lot of great content and helping us negotiate with sellers and work through that conversation, being active listeners. Is there any other way that people should know how to get in touch with you other than what you've already mentioned?
Email's probably the best way, but if you want to reach out to me on Facebook, I'm there as well. Mike Cowper.
Awesome. We'll have it in the show notes as well. And I hope the listeners will reach out to you, and I hope you will go to LifeBridge Capital and connect with me, and also go to our Facebook group, the Real Estate Syndication Show group, so we can all learn this business better and grow our businesses and learn from experts like Mike. And we will talk to each of you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.